This is Joe. It's safe to say that Joe likes cars. He likes them a lot. Joe goes under the name of Lucky's Supercars on YouTube and Instagram. But from what I've seen, luck has had very little to do with gathering together this incredible collection of cars. As the legendary golfer Gary Player once said, "The more I work and practice, the luckier I seem to get." Joe works hard, and it's pretty obvious that he also likes to play hard. And let's be honest now, who wouldn't want to play with a super rare and exotic Lexus LFA as their daily driver? Despite all the other incredible eye candy scattered around, including a second LFA with only delivery mileage on the clock, the virginal Aston Martin DBS sitting in the other corner, and the totally bonkers 208 miles per hour Mercedes McLaren SLR parked casually outside his front door, Joe has a certain car which I'm desperate to see, as it has been near the top of my list of all-time favourite cars since it was first unveiled as a concept at the Frankfurt Motor Show back in 2003. The Alfa Romeo 8C. Joe and I both agree that this mobile art installation is a strong contender for the best looking car ever made. It's smaller and more delicate up close than you'd imagine, and its curved rear flanks, wide stance and short overhangs are perfectly proportioned. Styling-wise, however, it has little in common with my other favourite exotic Alfa, the incredible 2900A 8C from 1936. But they do share an overload of sensuous curves, and they both cause an immediate sensation when they were first unveiled, in the way that only something incredibly special can. In typical Alfa Romeo fashion, the name is linked to previous Alfa models, with 8C referring to the 8-cylinder engine, whilst Competizione is a reference to the 6C Competizione. Here is the last surviving example, which sold for more than $3.5 million in 2018. The 8C Spider was launched the year after, and another 500 of those were built. And while it's undoubtedly a gorgeous convertible, the Spider is less sought after than the Competizione, because let's be honest, the Spider does have a whiff of Premier League footballer about it. And even more sadly, the coupe's stunning curves where the rear haunches meet the roofline are lost due to the roofs being cut off and sold to Milanese stockbrokers who use them for snowboarding trips to Cortina. Okay, so I made that bit up. The 8C is a modern icon and rightly hailed as one of the best looking cars ever. But looks are only half the story. So I asked Joe about his reasons for buying the 8C and what actually owning one was like.
I think the rationale for wanting to get one of these is just the event of it. You know, the look, the noise, and everyone knows they're not the best handling cars, and they're not necessarily the quickest, although it is quick. For me, it's always the exclusivity and the event of it. You're not going to pull up to the traffic lights and there's going to be another one, and it's stunning. Best looking car in the world in my view. I do look at things with a bit of an investment head on. I think it is a car you can buy with your heart and your head, which is quite rare. It does sort of tick all the boxes. Servicing is very reasonable, and it's biannual as well. So you're not sort of always at the dealership, and it's a very, very well built car. There's no sort of problem areas or anything that is going to come down the tracks at you, and it just it's got a bit of Enzo in it, and the seats, etc. The interior is an Enzo, and I think that adds to it rather than detracts from it. You know, there's a bit of a mongrel, bit of a through the Ferrari parts bin, and then Alfa bodied it, and they did the styling and everything else that went with it. So you know, it is a true Alfa.
What's your favourite thing about the car?
Overrun. Downshift overrun on this thing. There's no valves or messing around or no manipulation of it. It's just a natural, you know, proper natural noise.
What's the thing that annoys you most about this car?
Beeping. It has the most annoying, everything you're supposed to do, it beeps at you, and it's a piercing, whining. It's almost like an American car beep, if you know what I mean. And yeah, other than that, I'm sure there's a way you can switch it off somehow, and that's probably next on the list. But yeah, it's a pretty minor thing. It's so impractical. There's no boot, there's no nothing, and to be honest, I love it for it. You know, it's sort of not the point. Fantastic car.
And so, without further ado, we went out for a blast.
So consequently, I've got like...
The 8C rides pretty well considering it's got 20-inch wheels and tyres, and the interior is a very special place to sit. It's got woven leather seats and carbon fibre showing everywhere. In fact, like its smaller brother the 4C, the car is made out of the stuff. With the short wheelbase, the car can be a little twitchy when changing direction and cornering under power, but frankly that just adds to the drama. And oh boy, that noise.
See, like traction-wise, you end up being...
Along with a Busso V6 motor, the 8C is blessed with my other favourite engine of all time. The Ferrari-derived 4.7 litre V8, which is also used in the Maserati Gran Turismo, with 450 bhp and a 6-speed paddle shift transaxle gearbox. This combo boots the 8C from 0 to 60 in 4.2 seconds and onto a top speed of 181 miles per hour.
Tunnel! Whoa. Do you want to have a drive, mate?
Well, I wasn't going to ask.
So at this point, Joe surprised me by asking if I wanted to drive the car. I wasn't expecting to be asked, seeing as 8C Competiciones are currently worth around £250,000, and we were also fighting our way through the middle of the August holiday traffic mayhem. I said yes, obviously.
Yeah, you're all good, mate. And how wide is it?
Now, I should point out that the last time I drove a left-hand drive car was in France, about 6 years ago, so I was a little out of practice to say the least. If Joe was worried, however, he didn't show it, apart from pointing out that I was a little too close to the white line at one point.
Yeah, it's a kind of car you can do long distances in, isn't it? But not on the cat's eyes, Chris. Yeah.
Of course, I wasn't worried either. So, okay, yes, I drove pretty much like my grandma most of the way back. Apart from a few little squirts of acceleration, as the last thing I wanted to do was to end up travelling backwards in this super rare piece of automotive history. The 8C is such a special car, and all heads were turning when we growled and popped our way into the services to switch seats. You will be very lucky in the UK to see one on the road, as there are only ever a total of 41 cars sold here, and most will not be used the way that Joe uses his, which is a shame.
See, it gets a bit of attention, and not like a look at that Lamborghini attention.
No, you get a lot of people that know what this is.
Yeah.
You do get. I've had a few sort of chasers in the street, just because you don't see them, and they're like.
Yeah.
And I think, to be honest,
Which is fair enough.
It's anything where Top Gear did like a big deal about it. So like when they did this, and they tried to get into an art gallery, didn't they?
Ah, right, that's right, yeah. Well, it is art.
It is art.
I'm with them completely on that.
The recent announcement by the UK government that petrol and diesel engine cars will be banned from sale by 2030 was a bit of a slap round the face for many petrol heads. And although this will only apply to new cars, it seems certain that the writing is on the wall for the internal combustion engine, meaning the end of cars like the 8C. Having owned 2 modern hybrid electric cars, I can confirm that they can be quick, they can be quiet, they can also be very economical. It may also be claimed that electric cars are kinder to the environment, although if you examine this claim with any kind of logic, it's plainly obvious that that statement is very similar to the substance that comes out of the back of a horse. Producing electric cars is actually far more expensive and polluting than building cars with internal combustion engines, and requires the backing of the global mining industry to extract the additional copper, silver and lithium required from mines all over the planet. This has a terrible cost paid by people close to where the mining takes place, normally in third world countries like Chile, for instance. Surprise, surprise. In 2016, the largest mining companies as measured by CO2 emissions were responsible for 211.3 million metric tons of carbon emissions in that year alone. So, the question you might want to consider is, who benefits from supposedly green vehicles being sold to you and I? Well, not the environment, I would suggest. When our kids grow up, will they be able to enjoy the freedoms we did in the past? Will joyful expressions of man's ingenuity still be allowed? Or will those ideas be simply banned because they're not politically correct or efficient? Whatever happens, we may never see cars like the 8C again. Cars with real soul and an actual beating heart.